The inside story on the issues that affect you and your community. This is Local 12 Newsmakers.
Good morning and welcome to Local 12 Newsmakers. I'm Dan Hurley. The economic downturn has stressed the budgets of all local government units. Some have dealt with the challenge through a series of patches that do not address the underlying structural imbalances. Covington, Kentucky, on the other hand, over the last 2 years made some tough choices to get its budget structurally balanced. The possibilities that flow from that started to become clear with the announcement last Tuesday of a proposed $72 million 5-year investment plan. Local 12 reporter Joe Webb prepared this report.
On the count of 3.
The goal of most city improvements is to attract and keep businesses. And today was a good day for the city as Metzger Eye Care cut the ribbon on its expansion into Covington. The owner is the Vice Mayor of Florence, but likes what she sees here.
I see a lot of action happening down here in Covington. I think the City of Covington is doing a wonderful job trying to promote businesses.
Covington has always talked pro-business. The city manager is hoping to back that up with money.
We presented an ambitious, bold, and aggressive 5-year community investment plan of about $72 million.
$26 million to be spent in fiscal 2014. This year, more than half of the $72 million literally to go on the street, replacing old pavement and sidewalks heaved in the air by tree roots.
It's really a complete concept program. Sidewalk, street, curb, gutter, street tree. It's really a complete beautification program.
But the big selling point in the budget, a $10 to $12 million year-round pool and fitness facility, paid for with $2 million in city bonds, the rest coming from a business partner.
This would be an indoor-outdoor aquatic facility, and again, that is it's very much a solid concept. You know, we have been talking to potential partners. We don't have any fine details yet that we can share, but that is embedded in the 5-year plan.
To discuss the Covington proposal, I am joined this morning by Larry Klein, the city manager of Covington, Kentucky, and Bob Dew, the finance director of the City of Covington. Welcome to Newsmakers.
Thank you.
This is pretty exciting. This is big stuff.
Very exciting. After the last 2 or 3 years of making some corrections on our budget and facing the brutal facts, I think Covington is very well positioned to enter our 3rd century in 2015 with this 5-year plan.
When you say brutal facts, let's just review a little bit about what you've done over the past couple of years in terms of, you know, dealing with some pension issues, dealing with some health care issues, the union contracts. Just a quick review. What were you able to do?
I think,
Tom or Bob?
When Mayor Chuck Shepard took over the reins as mayor of City of Covington, one of his first requests was to do a 5-year projection on our operating revenues and expenditures. And it became apparent when we did those projections that over that 5-year period, we were looking at a $20 million deficit. So we tried to, the first priority in facing the brutal facts was to structurally balance our budget. We had to eliminate that $20 million deficit. And we wanted to do a little bit more, not just eliminate the deficit, but then start to look for the future, reallocate our resources that we still had. There were many paths that were taken. I think the primary, there were 3 primary drivers. One being to successfully complete negotiations with our 3 collective bargaining units. Through those negotiations, we were able to implement a health care plan that probably over the 5 years, through the savings from the health care, and we were paying close to $17,000, $18,000 per employee per year on health care. With the changes that were negotiated this year, we're looking at probably $12,000 per employee per year. That's a significant savings that are going to be ongoing in the future. That eliminated half of the deficit.
And one of the things here is that I noticed that in this budget that you're projecting forward, you're able to bring additional firefighters onto the force and additional police. Is that right?
Correct. We have a new recruit class of 12 firefighters that will come onto the roster around the end of July to replace some that retired last year, some we've anticipated to retire this year, and a net increase of 5 additional police officers in the next budget.
Now, in terms of what you were announcing on Tuesday, this dealt with some capital investments that the city is going to make. One of these is the sort of health facility, the new health facility that is going to be, you were referencing it in the story there. What are we talking about? And especially the fact, as I understand it, there's a private partner on that too, and sort of another interesting aspect of this.
Well, certainly the Healthy Living Center, the year-round Healthy Living Center certainly needs to be a public-private partnership, and we are currently talking to and seeking other partners in that to get this done. This is about a $10 to $12 million year-round Healthy Living Center. We say healthy living because it's not just indoor, outdoor, aquatic, and swimming, but just a general focus on education about healthy living. The city and several partners in Northern Kentucky, schools, universities, health districts have a Move, Breathe, Grow, Covington program, and it very much rolls into that. Right now, our city spends far less per capita in recreation than many of the cities around Kentucky, many of whom spend 3 and 4 and 5 times as much as we do. In the past 5 years, the city has had to close and demolish 2 city swimming pools because of their condition, and the ones we have remaining are in poor condition, and they're only open 10 weeks a year. That's not much of an amenity to offer residents and an attraction to appeal to new residents. So the Healthy Living Center is sort of a generic term, but we want that to be accessible to all Covington residents and offer not just recreation and fun and swimming, but education on healthy living and have a healthier population.
And of course, that's part, you're talking about your health plans in your employee contracts, but that's part of all health plans now, that it's not just about dealing with illness, it's about promoting health.
Absolutely.
So that's part of a larger movement throughout society. Bob, we're talking about a collaboration here with this Healthy Living Center, but there's still $72 million. How are you going to pay for this?
Well, that's one of the questions we wanted to address. And first, we wanted to stress that now that we structurally balanced our budget, it's not at the expense of public safety. If you look at our per capita spending on both police and fire, we exceed benchmarks for cities our size. And as you discussed earlier, we just hired a recruit class of firefighters to 12 and increasing our contingent of police by 5. So we feel on a general fund side that we can accommodate those within our current operating revenue structure. Now, looking at our debt, in the past, I think the city has been very negligent in investing in its infrastructure. If you look at our debt ratios, our debt as a percentage of our total assessed value, or debt as a percentage of our operating expenditures, we're significantly below the mean and median of other cities. And if you compare it to other second-class cities in the state of Kentucky, like Owensboro and Bowling Green, our debt expenditures as a percentage of our operating budget is less than 10%. They're around 20%. I think the indication is they're investing in their community. And because of our we haven't been investing in our community, and it's relatively low. Our debt service, annual debt service, has averaged around $5 million a year for the past 5-6 years. We do have some debt issues that will be mature and paid off in the next 5 years, and as we schedule out those individual debt issues and new debt comes on, old debt goes off, we're going to maintain that roughly $5 million to $5.5 million a year in debt service. So it will not put additional undue burden on the general fund.
So yeah, and that's what I really wanted to get to. That you're going to be able to do this without having just solved a bunch of problems, now going into a whole bunch of new debt. But you are going to, there's some tax issues here, and Kentucky's different than Ohio. My understanding is a local government unit can, on its own, raise taxes a certain percentage without having them subject to a referendum.
Correct.
How does that work in Kentucky?
Well, in Kentucky, cities and counties are allowed to take a compensating rate to raise their property tax rate and up to 4% allowable rate each year. And that part
each year?
Each year. And that part of our proposal that we will be recommending in August, the decision on the property tax rate will be set in August. That part of the plan really goes to not so much the $72 million 5-year plan, but to making it a sustainable plan. The point that Bob made, I think, reinforces the point that this is a responsible plan. Not to do these things, I think, is irresponsible. How that money gets spent over the next 5 years is really what we're talking about, not whether or not it will get spent. It will surely get spent. I want to reinforce that we're a 200-year-old city, and what we want to do is change the focus from looking at our annual 12-month budget to a longer-term outlook. Whether that outlook is 5 or 10 years, we should always be looking 5 years down the road at a minimum as a community, and not plan year by year and just look at what's left over from the general fund and then how do we invest that in our community. It's very much an investment. The return on investment will be quality of life, improved property values, and attraction of new residents and businesses.
Well, that's exactly why the infrastructure investments, if you're taking a longer view, that's exactly where infrastructure fits in, because that is long-term investment that has much more than a 5-year life. So
absolutely,
that, you know, when you're talking about streets and sidewalks and all of that sort of thing. So there's also a reference in the plan to the riverfront commons, and that's been talked about for a number of years. We've got some video that was used it's about 18 months ago that we're showing right now. Where does that stand? I mean, the riverfront, every city that has a riverfront in the last 25 years knows that that's an incredible, valuable piece of property.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are you gonna do?
We're very excited about that part of the 5-year plan that also focuses on riverfront development. And actually, we just received back responses to a request for qualifications from design firms to begin producing construction documents for phase 1 of the Riverfront Commons plan. The Riverfront Commons plan, as you know, is a pedestrian bicycle walkway from Fort Thomas to Bromley, Kentucky. And this phase 1 would produce that plan, that phase 1, from about the foot of Greenup Street on the Ohio River to our westernmost boundary line with Ludlow. And what that would do would create public space, bring people to the city, to the river, to enjoy the businesses. The waterfront is coming down to the Covington Landing now, as you know. It'll just bring more vibrancy to our riverfront, which is probably our greatest untapped resource. And I'll point out that we're lucky enough in the city to have not just one river, but 2. Our Licking River Greenway Trail, we already have phase 1 of the paved trails on that levee. We have plan 2, phase 2 set in motion now. So we're fortunate to have 2 rivers, 2 great natural assets to utilize.
And that fits in, those trails fit into this larger theme that we were just talking about healthy living as well. Getting people out walking, getting people out on their bicycles. We just did a show a couple weeks ago about a proposed trail in Cincinnati, the Oasis Trail, but this is not frivolous stuff. This is basic investments.
Well, it's what can we do to make residents want to live in Covington? What can we do to make businesses want to locate in Covington? And we feel this is a key ingredient.
You know, one of the things that has come up about younger people, young professionals, millennials, is that they more tend to choose where they want to live, and then they figure out the job, rather than figuring out the job, moving there, and then decide whether they like it. And it's a reversal. So these quality of life issues, good streets, good sidewalks, recreation centers, recreation facilities, these aren't just, this is about economic development.
Absolutely. Anything we can do to make our community a good place to live, a good place to work, a good place to visit is economic development. It brings people, vibrancy, and activity into our community.
One last question. I'm basically out of time, but one last question. And I don't know the inner workings of Covington as well as Cincinnati. You're the city manager, you're the financial director. Have you worked this out with council beforehand, before you announced it, or did you surprise council with your announcements on Tuesday?
Well, we never try to surprise elected officials. No, we have been working in this direction for the last 3 years. This is the point where we wanted to be. This is why we faced the brutal facts, so we could be at a point where we could stabilize our expenses and begin reinvesting in the community.
Finally, CVG.
Courage plus vision equals growth. We've had the courage, we had the vision. We're certain that will result in growth.
Very good. Not the airport.
Not the airport.
Not the airport. Thank you. Welcome back. Last August, community volunteers opened the Community Toolbank, a creative idea to increase the impact of volunteer work and decrease expenses performed by others and other not-for-profit organizations. The idea is that for pennies on the dollar, a church, school, or community organization could access over 100 different types of tools that they need for a community cleanup or an effort to build a playground or whatever. When the Cincinnati Community Toolbank opened for work last August, Local 12's Tiffany Wilson prepared this report.
Many times if you show up at a volunteer event, there aren't enough tools like this rake to go around. But today, with the grand opening of the Cincinnati Community Toolbank, that should never be a problem again. Hundreds of rakes and shovels stand at the ready. Garden hoses lay coiled. Screwdrivers and paint rollers are all organized in labeled bins. The warehouse in the West End holds more than 5,000 tools, and now everything is available to local nonprofits.
You name it, we have it, and if we don't, let us know.
To access the tools, groups must register online, and then they can pre-select what they want to borrow. The lending rate is 3 cents for every dollar, so a $100 ladder costs just $3 to use for a week.
This is a big deal. Yeah, we're really excited about it.
Patrick Newton is the president of Give Back Cincinnati, a volunteer organization for young professionals. He says the tool bank will increase the size and scope of projects they achieve.
Having tool bank really allows us to do things at a kind of a more cost-efficient level.
Home Depot, UPS, and Stanley Black & Decker donated most of the tools. Others came from local organizations like Crossroads.
We have a large investment in a big bank of tools, and in the past they've just sat idle until we've needed them a couple of times a year, and we're really excited about those tools being out in the community, being used as often as possible by other nonprofits.
In the West End, Tiffany Wilson, Local 12 News.
I am joined this morning by Kat Pepmeyer, the Executive Director of the Community Toolbank, and Doug Adams, the Chair of the Board of Trustees. Doug is also a Senior Vice President at PNC Bank when he's not over there hammering things or causing trouble or whatever.
Exactly.
Right? Well, welcome to Newsmakers. This is a great organization. You've been open since last August, as I was mentioning. How has it gone? Has there been a lot of use of your tools?
There has. We have served over 853 projects and over 17,000 volunteers already in the 11 months that we've been open.
Are there a couple of those projects you're particularly proud of that, you know, sort of, Doug, that sort of jump out to you?
Yeah, the Mayor's Corporate Challenge this year, we were a big participant in, and just seeing all the tools being used and seeing our blue-handled tools out there, it was tremendous with all those organizations that were helping build the city and make it more beautiful.
Okay, and I know that there was a, over in, I guess it's Camp Washington last summer, there was an effort to build a new playground.
It was.
And the tools came from you all,
They
right?
sure did.
And those are the kind of concrete things that really make a difference in a neighborhood.
Well, and you talked about the saving of money. So far, with the tools that are used, we've saved over $225,000 for nonprofits having to buy those tools individually. So you talk about the pennies on the dollars, and they can then reroute that money for their own missions. So we really have a unique concept here that's really helping beautify our city.
And is this unique to Cincinnati?
It is. We are the only tool lending organization that just caters to nonprofit organizations, churches, schools, and things like that.
In Cincinnati?
Yes.
Cincinnati.
But around the country, are there other things like this?
Yes, we are part of a national organization, Toolbank USA. So we were the 4th affiliate to open. There's one in Charlotte. Atlanta was the first Toolbank to open. They opened 20 years ago. And Baltimore opened in June of last year. So they're celebrating their year anniversary this month.
Okay, so 4 of them, Cincinnati being one. And one of the reasons Cincinnati's one of them is because I know the hard work Doug and other volunteers did to put this organization together. what caught my attention, I mean, I was at the opening last year, we just couldn't fit it in at that time. What had caught my attention was that Duke Energy has just made a grant to the tool bank that's really important for this summer.
It is. It's a summer of service. So Duke Energy sponsored the months of June and July. So what that means is that organizations can borrow tools for free through the months of June and July. It doesn't cover replacement costs or late fees, but any organization that has an upcoming service project can order as many tools as they need for.
So if a tool is blown out and the rake handle breaks.
If it breaks, that's fine. We understand there's normal wear and tear. Just bring the pieces back and they won't be charged. But if the tool goes completely missing, then we have to charge for the replacement cost.
Okay, I see. So
don't go using a stamper as a pry bar.
Yeah,
that's typically what we see. They use it for the wrong
people don't
use.
know. Well, and you're dealing with people who aren't necessarily used to doing this kind of work.
Right.
Very true.
So they may not use it. Now, on your website, and we're going to give people information about how to get to the website, there is a list of, I don't know, it seemed like it was over 100 tools.
It is over 100 tools.
Are there certain types of tools that are here and others that you do not loan out? Really, power tools, you know?
We have a small amount of power tools at this point. We are looking to expand our inventory. We would like to get, you know, lawnmowers and trimmers, things like that, table saws, some more construction material.
Okay, you would. I was just wondering if the fact that they weren't here was a factor of insurance questions.
No, it's more that we just haven't added those to our inventory yet. If you look at our initial inventory, it's the rakes, the shovels, a lot of the basic things, hand drills, hand screwdrivers, power screwdrivers, basic things that people can use. Our inventory will continue to grow over time. Right now we've got over $100,000 worth of inventory, so it's quite a bit of tools, and we look to grow in the future.
I know one of the things that you were saying back in the opening was that if an organization had a lot of tools that they didn't use very often, you were open to working out deals where they could, you know, donate the tools to you and then get things back.
Yes, so if they were to donate tools, then they would get 50% of the retail value of the tools in a credit that they could then borrow. Not just their tools, but they'd have access to our entire inventory.
And is anybody taking you up on that? Any organization?
Actually, the Cincinnati Parks donated a large quantity of tools that they previously had in Eden Park, and Crossroads Church donated their entire inventory for Go Cincinnati. So Doug was talking about the Mayor's Corporate Challenge. We also simultaneously, because they were one day apart this year, also equipped the Mayor's Corporate Challenge, or Go Cincinnati.
So have you run into situations here where there's more demand than you have tools?
We did once.
Once.
For the Go Cincinnati and the Mayor's.
For the Go Cincinnati, okay, because they were so back to back and they were so close together.
And that was over 8,000 volunteers between the two projects.
So if a church or a community council or something knows it is going to do a cleanup or working on a playground or whatever, how far ahead should they book something?
We like at least 2 days notice.
Well, that's not much.
No, but we have, I mean, we really do have a lot of tools, and there were only about 2 different tool types that we were running short of for those 2 projects. So.
Well, that plus the good news is, as member agencies, they go online on our system and they literally sign up for the tools, and we reserve those tools for them. So the accessibility, they will definitely get them if they've reserved those tools ahead of time. Okay,
so there's a sense of security that you've got the tools that you need to do the work that you're going to do.
Obviously, the more notice that we have, the more likely we are to have what you need.
But once they go online and register, we will literally pull those tools from inventory and take them off of our online system so they can't be loaned out again.
Doug, as somebody who was involved in this from the very beginning, what is it that makes you feel best? What you know, at this point what makes you feel best about this organization?
I think that the connections that we are making into the city, you look at our board of directors, and it's comprised of people from Procter & Gamble and Macy's and PNC Bank and Al Nair Inc. and Baker Concrete, UPS, Home Depot. So we're bringing a lot of different forces together, and I think that it really shows the need in this community. But you look at our funding sources, and it's not just from our board members or our board companies. We've got multiple funders out in our community, so everybody sees the need for this. And if we can save nonprofits a lot of money that they would have to use for their missions, it's just an excellent thing. So you look at the power of leveraging that up, the power of making Cincinnati a better place to live, work, and play. And that's what we're here for. We're here to be kind of the great enabling agency for other nonprofit and civic organizations.
Well, congratulations for what you've done. I want to make sure people know how to find you. For more information, go to the website, CincinnatiToolbank.org. The telephone number there on the screen, 513-246-0015. And it's on Central Avenue, not Central Parkway, Central Avenue in the area that I call Mohawk, but you refer to as West End. Historians, we're just such picky people. So congratulations with all that you do.
Thank you.
And good luck this summer.